Welcome, folks, to another episode of Judging Nerd Culture. I'm Ollie.
And I'm Jess.
So, this is going to be the first video of the new year, and also the first video we've recorded in
a while.
a long time.
It's been busy.
Yeah, with the end of the school year, and then immediately after that, all of the holidays, because winter is just all of the collection of the holidays all at once. Has been rather busy. But we're finally back to do some fun stuff and talk about, I'm not going to say that, like, one of the biggest movies of the year, because I don't think it was that big.
For some people.
Sure. For some people, it was the biggest movie of, like, 3 decades. But in terms of just public fanfare, I don't think it was the biggest, baddest movie around or anything like that. But it was still a movie that's more or less, in some ways, shape, and forms, like 30 years in the making, which is a pretty huge fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, if you haven't guessed, we're talking about Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of the Skywalkers. And,
which isn't really a Rise of the Skywalkers.
Not really, no.
I was expecting more Skywalkers.
To Rise, yes. Well, I mean...
They did the opposite of Rise.
Oh, yeah. There's one left, but she, isn't really... You know, we'll talk about that in a second. The big thing is that, like, this is the end of the trilogy series of the primary Skywalker storyline. Mm-hmm. You know, from Anakin becoming a huge dipshit to Luke also becoming a huge dipshit to someone else saving the world, which is fun story arcs all around. But yes, this particular one is mostly about the new trio of heroes wrapping up this massive war and doing it in honestly the least effective way possible, but still getting it done.
Yeah.
The main, like, driving idea behind the plot is that after Poe and Finn come back from some big fancy thing, they meet up with Rey, and everyone gets informed that, oh, there's evil on the horizon. Palpatine is alive, and everyone's freaking the fuck out. Mm-hmm. Because that guy's the worst. Just objectively the worst person. And they decide that they need to find some wayfinder? Mm-hmm. Alright. So, something called a wayfinder to help them get basically coordinates to travel to the Sith homeworld of lore and mythology and nonsense, where Palpatine 100% actually lives.
Yeah.
And that's the movie. That's the whole thing that they're doing, is just trying to find any information about this thing, where it goes to, and along the way they're having emotional moments, death-defying acts, all sorts of Star Wars-y shenanigans, keeping them on the brink of almost dying each time. And oh boy, this movie has a lot of this character is gone forever. Oh no, they're fine.
I only have a couple of those.
It only has a couple of them, but there were 2 really big characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the whole shtick. There's not a whole lot of complexity in the plot itself. Where any of the complexity tries to come in is in the development of the relationships between some of the characters.
The side plots. Yeah.
Basically. Like, this is a movie that has a plot, but it doesn't really matter. It's getting from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Everything that matters is all the side plots.
The biggest one that's been going on throughout this newer trilogy is the weird romance between Rey and Kylo. they've been having visions, and he tells her, the next time we meet, you're going to hold my hand. You're going to take my hand. And, blah, blah, blah. It happens. And she doesn't take his hand. And she tells him later, I wanted to take Ben's hand, not Kylo's hand. And if you don't know, that is Kylo's real name, given to him by Leia and Han. So there's this weird Romeo-Juliet thing happening. And at the end, spoilers, but when they get to Exegol,
oh, that's the name of the place.
That's the name of the place.
The Sith homeworld.
It's Rey at first, Rey and Finn and Poe and the Resistance, and you don't know what's happened to Kylo since the last time Rey saw him, but the scene did end with him thinking very thoughtfully, really in deep thought, and he just chucks his saber into this raging ocean, and
huge waste of a lightsaber.
Eventually he shows up to help her face Palpatine, whatever, and yeah, he becomes Ben, basically.
Yeah.
He transforms back into his his Jedi self.
Yeah,
because when he dies the way of a Jedi.
Yeah, he does the whole Jedi disappearing act.
But he does save Rey's life, and kill Palpatine, whatever. And so I guess he made up for all the Sith things he's done by saving Rey and killing the big bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Kylo Ben was existing for so little amount of time in this movie that I didn't really get a chance to, I don't know, see if he was any different of a fucking person. He seemed a little less angry. But
he seemed like the same person, just I don't know, less trapped, I guess.
Also, maybe a little less trashy.
Yeah.
All throughout the movies, he's just been kind of like this, just shitty guy who wants to date you and won't leave you alone. And then at the end of the movie, he's just like, JK, I'm actually pretty cool. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have liked it. I just wish there was more time of him actually having been reformed and trying to fix things rather than the last 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. But we don't.
Yeah.
And it's throughout the other movies, they try to make it seem like he doesn't want to be a Sith. He's just doing it because he's being manipulated, or he feels like he has to. But he's making these decisions. He could stop any second.
Yeah.
So it's not... It's like he's trapped by Stockholm syndrome. He's been on the dark side so long that he is chill with it now.
Yeah.
But he tells Rey, I can't go back now, not after what I did. Well, you killed your dad. No, duh.
He didn't just kill his dad. He's also the reason that his uncle died.
Yeah.
And as you find out in this movie, he's the reason his mother dies.
Yeah, he doesn't directly kill her, but she dies to save him, basically. Yeah. So
essentially in this movie, the same thing that happened to Luke happens to Leia, which Leia's gotten pretty strong with the fucking Force.
Yeah, she didn't do it. It wasn't as powerful as Luke's, though.
No,
because she was already
kind of dying.
Dying.
Old age was coming for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, she could still hear and sense him from across the goddamn universe, and then was just like, "Hey," from wherever the hell she was, and it distracted him long enough to help him get stabbed and be reformed emotionally and mentally. So I don't know, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. She basically sent her emotions to him, her thoughts.
Her death was to be expected, because unfortunately her actress is also passed. So that wasn't a big shock in any way that she was going to die this season in this finale. But the fact that she died helping Ben get back to being Ben was cool, but also made it so that he
didn't have any reason to be alive now.
Yeah,
besides Ray.
Yeah,
and nobody really wants that.
No one wanted that. But yeah, he's the reason all of his family died, as they were trying to like reach out to him or whatever. So like that's pretty fucking ridiculous. But this time it worked. This last time,
yes,
with a little help from his ghost dad that he might have been imagining, because he's definitely not.
He's not a Jedi.
He's not a Force ghost, so like that had to have been just, I'm going a little crazy because my mom and family are all dead and it's my fault.
Yeah. But yeah, they defeat Palpatine and they go home to this planet the Resistance has been on, and everybody's happy, and they're gonna build a new home. And Poe is the new general.
Yeah. Leia left everything to him, which I like Poe. I really like Poe. That seems like a horrible idea.
Who else is she gonna leave it to?
I know.
I mean, Lando's there; he'll help.
Yeah.
And then
I guess that's fair.
And Rey goes back to Desert Planet and hides the 2 sabers deep in the earth.
Yep. She forces them down into the sands on the planet where Luke is from, with the 2 suns, the name of which I don't remember because, as I'm sure everyone's guessed, I'm not a big Star Wars dude. I don't have any idea what I'm talking about. That being said, I still, like movies and watch them. So, yeah, it ends on them recreating the scene of Luke staring at the 2 suns with Rey in his place. And she, at the very end, is when she declares that she is going to go on existing as Rey Skywalker. Which is fine. That's cool.
Yeah, you wouldn't want the same last name as the guy who tried to end the galaxy. So.
No one's going to go around being like, I'm Palpatine. How's it going? No. It's like, there's no one around whose name is Hitler anymore. Like, they've all changed their name.
Yeah.
Like, that family name stopped existing. Tangent aside, yeah, that's the movie. That's the bits and the pieces. There's cute moments where everyone's almost having a romantic moment, where people are getting closer to other characters and drama is happening, and Poe keeps trying to... Finn keeps trying to declare his love for Rey while she just keeps running off to meet with Kylo. But other than that, like, everything's, just happening. It just keeps on trucking along. And it closes off on a honestly pretty lovely scene. I gotta say, though, this movie is mostly fan service. More than anything else. It's a lot of really interesting callbacks to different parts of all the movies and the lore and all sorts of things to really, tie everything back together and remind everyone all of the different cool things that have happened in almost every other movie. But, and I'm not saying that that's wrong or anything like that, but it is a little weird, and I'm not sure, maybe it was better for some people, because like I said, I'm only slightly a fan. Like I like the series. These final 3 of the trilogies I think were my favorite of the trilogies, and I know that's not a popular thing, but like I like them a lot. So like I'm not a huge fan, I'm just enough of a fan to have gotten a few, if not quite a few, of the references, but I know there were a lot more. Like, I knew enough to know when something was a reference that I didn't get. And with that in mind, maybe if someone got all of the references, it was a little more heartfelt, a little more like a, hey fans, goodbye. Where instead of like a, alright, well, we just have to give them everything they want sort of thing. Like, I don't know. From only getting a bit of it, it sort of just felt like, well, you want this, right? So here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than like a love letter, which maybe that was what they were going for. I don't
I don't know.
know. But anyways, want to tell me about maybe some of the less good parts for you? Because we should definitely end on a high note. Because overall, I still think it's an okay movie.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun to watch. It's a movie that you could play in the background or just watch it because it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't think I would watch it again for the plot. I'd watch it again because it's just kind of fun.
Yeah, that's true.
The movie felt like they were making the search for the Wayfinder and getting rid of, the Sith Lord secondhand. Like, they were like, here's the love story of Kylo and Rey. Also, there's this other thing, but who cares about that,
Yeah. I can see that.
And I just, throughout the trilogy, there wasn't much of a love story. In this one, they made it feel like it had been building up for a really long time, and that they were very, emotionally attached to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I know they could talk to each other through the Force and everything, so maybe they could also share emotions through the Force, like they could feel what each other was feeling. But at the end, when he saves her life and they kiss, that
I felt a little.
it felt like they were just catering to fans who shipped it,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't feel right when they kissed. Like, she was happy that she was alive, obviously, and that he was alive for a minute, and that he was Ben, that he was he had come to the light side now. But I don't know, it just felt weird. When did she have the time to fall in love with him like that?
Yeah.
To care about him is one thing, but to fall in love with him enough to want to be intimate with him like that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
where that came from.
It felt very oh, well, here's a kiss.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It definitely felt like here you go, Reylo shippers. Mm-hmm. Have a good time with this. Not that it matters. He's dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt off because in the previous movie, number 8, which incidentally is my genuine favorite. Also not a positive opinion apparently. But anyways, in that one they showed Kylo and Rey establishing a relationship, and then immediately showed the rest of that relationship up until it ended. That felt like an entire relationship from beginning to end. And when this one picked up, it sort of felt like it was still undecided. Mm-hmm. Where at the end of the last one, it was like, oh no, it was decided. You said no, and she was like, well, okay, bye.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It just didn't feel like it was quite on the same page as where their relationship had left off in the last movie.
Yeah. I don't know. They were just trying too hard. So, what was one of your least favorite things?
Okay, so one of my least favorite things has to be the shift in theme between the 8th and the 9th movie, because the 9th movie was all about not having to worry about who Rey was, and that lineage wasn't important anymore. It was about not needing that legacy to be the next hero of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Sort of like in the Spider-Man shtick, their long running theme is anyone can be under the mask. It can be you, me, anyone. And it sort of felt like that was the same direction that the last movie was going in, with that sort of with that sort of message of anyone can be the next great Jedi or Sith or anything. And that felt really interesting to me. And they even showed these fun little scenes with a strange child on planet whatever with a broom, showing off a little bit of potential for the Force. And it's like, that's going to be the next main character of something. We don't know what or why, but that's going to be an important person. Who are they? Literally no one. Does it matter who they are? No.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really cool. And this movie went in sort of the opposite direction, where everyone involved was a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Either a Skywalker or a Palpatine or something. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate the message of, even if you're a legacy, you can go a different direction. You can break off from what you're intended to do and become something better. That's great. That's wonderful. I just felt like I'd seen that more often than I've seen, are you a nobody? Are you literally no one at all? Doesn't fucking matter. Pick up the lightsaber and go be a goddamn Jedi, because why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just more excited for that message than the one that we got in this one. I still think it's a good message and it's a powerful one, and I think they did a good enough job with it. I just was a little disappointed in the change.
Yeah, I mean, they can't have both movies be about the same thing.
No, but all three of the movies all three of the trilogies are about legacies, are about people with these like long-standing destinies, where it's just like, there was a prophecy about a powerful kid from whatever, you're that kid, you have this destiny. And then it's about Luke and his sister, just like, you have this legacy of power that you have to come to conflict with. You have to bring back like good value to your family name, or this, or that sort of thing. Where this last trilogy was still about legacy. It was still about this family who's caused all this havoc, who's caused all of this even good stuff to happen. They've still just been integral in all of these events, and it's sort of come down to the downfall of these people, to the end of this line. And that's why the last movie, the Last Jedi, I thought was going to be an interesting thing, where maybe the Jedi Order ends and maybe Luke is the last Jedi, and instead they go in a different direction and something new happens. Because then it executes the idea of following a legacy until its eventual end and starting new. And this final piece of this movie, of this trilogy, could have been, instead about subverting your legacy, it could have been about establishing a new one and creating a new direction for the world. I don't know. Maybe that would have been less impactful to some people. Maybe that would have left a bad a taste in their mouth regarding like what happens with the Skywalkers. That's very possible. I don't know anything about what I'm actually saying. I just know how I feel about it. And I know that I would have preferred to see a more directed message saying that just because there's a legacy and there's a destiny and all this, that it doesn't have to be that doesn't have to be the guiding principle for this universe, for this thing. You don't have to, just because you're not part of it doesn't mean that you're not going to be great. That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Where instead it was, at the end of it, you did have to have a legacy to be a part of something. You can subvert it. You can be a better person than you were intended to be, than people expect you to be. But if you don't already have a grand destiny ahead of you, then you're not going to have one. And that left a bad feeling in me. And that's kind of what I meant.
Okay. Yeah. I understand that and how it would make you feel not great.
Yeah. Because, like, let's be honest. Everyone's the main character of their own, like, story. Because we're living creatures with our own minds, and we focus on ourselves. But knowing that, like, we read stories and all these things about people who are the chosen or the actual main characters of something. And in the light of, like, the stories we read, we're nobodies. So having a story dedicated to the revealing of nobody being the main character. That's, I think, important. I think that's an interesting way to invite the audience to fantasize about their own potential in a way that here's this legacy story doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, what about you? Is there any other things that you really didn't like that you feel like you want to talk about, or is everything else kind of more, okay?
No, there wasn't really too much that I was against. It was really fun. Other than her being obviously the the granddaughter of a Sith was like, yeah, okay. But it was pretty good. I don't really have anything else negative to say about it. I don't think I watched it with as much, I don't know, intensity as maybe you did, because I don't know, I don't have a lot of deep emotions or thoughts about it. But I can tell you that I really liked all of the creatures. One of the things I like about the Star Wars universe and any, well-written, good space adventure is the creatures. And I really liked all the aliens that they included in this one. A lot of the creatures that were used for, like, hauling things, like we would use horses or cows or bulls. I really liked all of those. Like, the weird giraffe-looking ones or the bear-looking ones. They're cool.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. The Star Wars aliens are some of the ugliest creatures I've ever seen, and I really like that about them, because, like, yeah, I feel like if I met an alien, I would probably think it was super ugly.
Yeah.
So it was neat to. That's something I've always appreciated about Star Wars, is just how hideous some of their characters can be, and some of them, like in like the Star Wars, the Clone Wars TV show or whatever, they had a lot of these main characters or a lot of side characters, I guess, who were some of the random aliens that you see, and some of them are still, again, ugly, but they're super cool. It's like, oh, look at this bug-eyed, weird mouth-nosed fly creature. He's a master Jedi who can kill you with a blink. I was like, okay, why not? You don't have to be pretty to be a Jedi. You just have to get shit done. So that's something I 100% agree. It's nice to see.
Yeah. I think all of the worlds and creatures that they have created is one of the reasons that it's such a big franchise. Because there's just so much about it that feeds into your imagination.
Yeah. That's definitely what Star Wars has done best, I think. Like, I don't think the original 3 movies or the prequel movies are as good as some people want them to be. I think they're fine. I think they're great, even. Just not, magical. Like,
yeah, but they were they weren't the first of their kind, but in a way they were.
Yeah, like, they were definitely the largest spectacles at that point in time.
Like, there had been other space things, but this one was bigger, like, there
fancier.
was more money put into it and more advertisements. Mm-hmm. So
I think that's 100% true. I think it's one of the, back in the day, in the 70s or whenever, I think it was one of the most, like, funded sci-fi adventures, because at the time that wasn't what made money. So seeing that much money pumped into one was surprising, which is, good, because now we're where we are and it's kind of a bigger deal. And I wasn't trying to say that they weren't good or anything. I'm just saying I've looked back, and there are things that when you're seeing it now, especially if you weren't, like, if it wasn't ingrained in your childhood, where I've rewatched some of it and I've kind of just thought to myself, that's not the best. Like, that's not as impressive as the way people have talked about it made me think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it.
A lot of work is put into the creatures, though.
Oh no, I agree. I just mean that like when I first watched the original the original trilogy, I was, I don't know, later in life. I was well into the teens, and I had watched the prequels already because they had already come out, and I had watched them, and I had never really seen the original three. I think I'd seen chunks and pieces, and I think even to this day I haven't exactly watched them beginning to end every single one or anything like that, but I've seen them in general. And I remember seeing parts of it and seeing the movies and thinking that this is good, but I expected it based on like the things people have said about it for it to be more. And it was good, it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be based on what people were saying about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what was your favorite part? Or one of your favorite parts?
One of my favorite parts. One of my favorite parts is throughout the entire movie, and it's also one of my least favorite parts. It's the same thing. I like it and I hate it. Is the fact that in this movie, throughout the entire thing, the thing that they allow the Force to do become extravagant. Like, up until now, it's just been like, oh, I'm gonna push this thing. Ooh, I lifted up a X-Wing. Ooh. And then in this one, it's just like, I'm gonna grab this entire transport thing. I'm gonna heal a dying creature, close a wound. I'm gonna teleport this lightsaber across time and space. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
There's actual teleportation and all this other shit. And that was cool. Don't get me wrong, that was super cool. I love that stuff. I love big fancy space wizard powers. But at the same time, the fuck?
And it wasn't like explained. It was just suddenly, well, she's practiced a lot.
Yeah, I guess. It's just so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my god. If they had been showing some of that off with the other two, or the other parts of this trilogy, like, ooh, we see Luke, and holy shit, look at all this wild stuff he can do. And I mean, he did project his image across the world, across the galaxy, which was cool. But it wasn't as extravagant as it seemed. Maybe it was, because in this one you find out that, because in this one, Kylo and Rey are having a long distance relationship where he just keeps appearing in front of her in weird Force imagery and pestering her until she agrees to date him, basically. But when he does that, they fight. They actually fight with real lightsabers and destroy things and hit each other and actually have combat across space, despite not being in the same location. And I mean, that seems extremely similar to what happened with Luke, with him transporting his image across the whole galaxy to get to that one place to fight against Kylo or whatever. And in that movie at that time, it seemed as though he wasn't actually there. It seemed as though that wasn't what was going on. And maybe this is a retcon of that power. Maybe this is establishing that he was there. I don't know what's going on with that whole thing. I just know that it has potential to recontextualize some of the abilities of some of the previous movies and some of the previous characters and what happened. I still think it's really cool. It just was surprising to see some of these big ass powers being just thrown about. I forgot. I think one of the scenes we saw Rey like lifting up this big ass ship out of the ground or something. Where in
No, Luke did it
right
as a ghost.
Yeah, as a ghost, as a fucking ghost, he just lifted the X-wing up like it was nothing, and like he was like dead. He's a ghost.
No, but he's part of the Force, so he has the Force right there for him to use.
Okay. Maybe he's stronger now. Who even knows? But yeah, it was interesting. I am excited. I was excited to see where some of the powers could go. But it was a little shell shocky. Like, oh shit, I didn't know you could just heal a wound like that. I didn't know you could just teleport an item across space by thinking about it. Like, I think the first scene where that happens, Kylo is sort of pestering Rey while she's at a festival, trying to figure out where the map piece is. And he's blah, 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 talking to her, and she, like, backs up, like, hey, you know, chill the fuck out or whatever. And he snags up her necklace that some little girl put on her as part of the festival. And he actually takes it and grabs it. And then in the next scene, he's giving it to one of his generals so that they can be like, oh, yes, this is from this location on this planet. They have this festival there. But he actually had it. And that was the first time of the movie where I was like, holy shit, he actually just stole that. And it genuinely surprised me. And, like, I was just like, what the fuck is this? So, yeah. Both a highlight and a confusing moments of this movie were just all of the spectacle of the powers.
So I mean, it had its issues, its baggage, but it was good. It made you feel good when it was supposed to. It made you feel kind of sad when people died or were destroyed. Mm-hmm. It was upsetting.
Yeah, Leia's death was actually really sad, especially knowing the connection with, like, her actual actress and all this. And, like, that's an impressive character nonetheless. And to watch the ending of this story or whatever, I found the ending of her character to be the most emotional part of the movie.
Well, yeah. I think it was not only impactful because it was Princess Leia, but because the actress herself is gone. Yeah,
there's a scene with Chewie where he's just, like, screaming and crying, and I was like, oh, this kind of hurts. This is hitting me right in the emotions. So yeah, there's definitely, like, powerful moments in it. And some silly moments. Like, Star Wars has never been as serious as people pretend it is. It is incredibly goofy. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I really do. And there's plenty in this movie that was just like, this is silly. This is a ridiculous little thing. Poe going back to his, like, I don't know, outlaw country or whatever planet where he used to be some sort of drug smuggler, and his interactions with Helmet Lady, like, they're all really silly. Mm-hmm. It's just like, hey, do you want to have sex? No. She's like, all right, cool. Just ask him. Just figured it was important to ask. And, like, it was all really dumb and silly, but I had a good time with that. Like, I like Poe. I think he brings a reasonable amount of humor to the scenes that he's in, even when they're not particularly funny. Like, his character is very, well, sure, why the fuck not? There's space magic. We'll just do that, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, like, I feel that. I feel what Poe feels in many of these instances where it's like, sure, why not?
He's like a more likable Han Solo.
Exactly. Which is obviously the intent, but I dug it. I was into it. I've never been a big Han Solo fan, and I don't know why. I know he's cool and whatever. I just never was. But, oh well. Poe resonates much more with me. And, like, he's funny. Like I was saying, like, he brought a lot of humor, and I really appreciated that. I like the goofy wittiness of Star Wars. Also, Finn is just a lovable person. Yeah. His character, everything about him is just like, I like him. I hope he succeeds. I want him to be a good, happy individual. That's it.
There's not really any bad characteristics of his, other than in the earlier movies when he was, like, too scared to do stuff. But that was when he literally suddenly was conscious of all of his life decisions. And he was like, well, I just escaped, basically, enemy territory, and I do not want to go back. They will kill me because I am a traitor.
Yeah. No, it made sense that he was scared as fuck. Like, he's been part of the bad guys. He knows what the bad guys do, so he's just like, I'm fucked. But no, it is nice to see him be a little more of a leader in this one. That was, I think, his character arc throughout the 3 movies has been the most impressive, because he genuinely is, despite after changing Rey's whole thing, he still is the nobody who became an important figure in this story, in this destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
Poe, not as much, because he sort of just is another Han Solo, which is fine. That's still cool, but is, I don't know, a rehashing of the past in a way that's not as impressive as, look at this stormtrooper who ran away from this evil thing to fight against it. That, I think, made Finn a much more dynamic, and like that's what made him so likable. What made me want to root for him. It's just because his storyline was one of, wow, that's a big deal. Holy shit, I hope this works out for you, man. You know, that's the entire like feeling of his story arc, is good luck. I really hope you succeed.
Yeah. And you think he's, you know, the only one who's ever done that. But then they go to a planet and he finds a whole, like, I don't know, village of stormtroopers that have turned their backs on the, you know, dark side, I guess.
Yeah. And then there's bits and pieces of him maybe being force sensitive.
Yeah.
Maybe feeling the force a little.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I feel like that's because he believes in it so much, and he has so much, like, faith and belief in the force, that it's just kind of like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, if you, like they say, if you believe in the universe enough, and if you do good things, and you know, have faith in whatever, then the universe will give back to you. Then maybe it's just like that. Maybe he's so in tune with the force and such a believer in it that it just, he's become sensitive to it.
Yeah. Not because of the midichlorians or whatever. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing that. I enjoyed seeing potential for more growth in that direction for him, because Rey's cool, and I think she's gonna definitely make a new Jedi order or whatever, and it's gonna be a fine order. But like, I don't know, Finn has a certain softness to him that I think would make him a great, like, mentor to tiny children.
I mean, he'll probably help with that.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm excited for, is thinking that that's a possibility. Mm-hmm. Him and Rey and possibly whoever else creating a new Jedi Order. Mm-hmm. That's exciting. That's interesting. That's fun. Yeah. So I think we're pretty much done talking about all the stuff. There's one thing I want to mention.
What?
The ending of this. It was interesting to see her, like, destroy that whole thing and do the big fight. And I was excited to see maybe the Sith be ended, because that means something new is going to be an issue. Because the name of this series is still Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be a war somewhere in the stars. But it might not be with the Sith anymore. Maybe something else will take its place and use the dark side for whatever means. But it hopefully will have a different, I don't know, ritualistic symbolism than what the last one had, because I just never was into it. I never got it. And I think that this ending being so, I don't know, definite, like they were on this like mythical homeworld and they tore it down. They fought the guy. They took it down. They took him down. They took down his fleet of massive ships who all had Death Star cannons. And it was so definitive. It was so absolute that it sort of gives me like this feeling of there has to be something else. There's got to be something new. The next thing isn't just going to be the Sith again. It's going to be something unique. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to bring up the ending again, is because like that this whole thing happened, and it's such a big deal because there's got to be genuine like movement and direction in the Star Wars universe to something that they hasn't existed before, and that's gonna be cool to see something altogether new. Is something I'm excited for. So that's why I like the ending, despite it having weird things and whatever dumb romances and kisses. It ends with this idea of something else happening, something that we can't just predict based on lore being established because it doesn't exist yet, and that should be real interesting for whatever this franchise goes to do. If it does continue forward, maybe it's just gonna do one-shot movies of characters from the past. Who knows? But if they do go forward, that I think that's where it's gonna go. Some showing where the balance comes back in, because there's still a dark side. Someone's gonna be feeling it, and they're gonna make something out of it, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I think this is a solid, like, B movie. Not a B movie. Like, if I gave it a grade, it's like an 85 out of 100, you know? Like, it's good. I just wished it had gone in a different direction. If it had kept sort of the same idea as the last one, I think it would definitely have been more of an A. I think the way it was shot was great. I think the actual combat and all of the cool set pieces were spectacular. And I thought the character relationships and interactions, for the most part, were spectacular. But I think its message was a little clouded. I think it went in a less impressive direction. So yeah, that's where I'm going. 85 out of 100.
Okay. I might go up a little more just because I don't know. I in the Star Wars movies, I don't know, wasn't really looking for a message. I was just looking for, is this fun to watch? So
yeah, and it is fun to watch. Like, I'd watch it again, not right now, but I'd watch it again.
I would need to have some sort of motivation to watch it, and also time, because they're so long.
It is pretty long. I'm not gonna lie. Hefty movies.
Yes.
But yeah, especially if this is, I don't know, something that you've been waiting for since the 70s. If you watched the first one when you were a kid and you're here to watch the ending of this incredibly long series, this is probably something really special. Like, I think the callbacks resonated more with you if that was what you were looking for. So it was good, but not the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think that's everything. Which means goodbye.